If there's something that we all know about TF2, it's that it has a whole lot of game modes. Some going strong after 10 plus years, others left in the dust never to see the light of day again. Regardless, in this new series, I want to go through every official game mode, talk about what the game mode does well and not so well in, and then finally close with my final thoughts about the game mode. Since this is a very subjective topic, I thought it'd be a good idea to get someone else's opinion on the matter. So let's welcome everyone's favorite blue cat, Air.
Hey, what's up?
In this first episode, Air and I will be discussing the infamous Capture the Flag game mode, going over what we like and what we don't quite like about it, and then closing with our final thoughts. So then welcome, my name is Nugatory,
And I'm Air.
and this is Game Mode Gripes. Before we start, I have to say, what we think about each game mode is going to be our opinions, so don't think that what we're going to say is the definitive and holy truth, cause it's not. If you think differently, that's fine. This video is in no way trying to change your opinion. So with that said, let's get started. It's safe to say that Capture the Flag can range from being around shorter than a standard King of the Hill game to even a couple of hours. Because of this, you sort of want to think twice when joining a CTF game, cause as soon as you do, if you have any shred of decency for your team, you've drafted yourself into a game that could last potential hours. So why is this a positive, you may ask? Because you never know how long each game lasts, it makes CTF more dynamic. The game could range from being a few minutes long to a multi-hour long game between two dedicated teams who both really want to win. It's a nice change of pace compared to other TF2 game modes, except for maybe control points, cause unlike Payload, King of the Hill, or Attack Defend, which all have an inevitable end, Capture the Flag doesn't. If you want the game to end, you have to put it on your shoulders, cause in CTF, there is no timer to save you, and that's what makes it more awesome and feel more like an actual war. When it comes to maps, Capture the Flag has easily gotten the short end of the stick. With only 6 maps to choose from, 2 of which were temporarily removed, CTF does deserve some new maps. That being said, the few maps currently in the game definitely take quality over quantity into account, at least in my opinion. While all the maps have their own issues, especially 2-4 and Turbine, which are coincidentally the 2 most popular CTF maps, they all at the same time have their own unique map styles and gimmicks that keep Capture the Flag more interesting. As someone who's been playing CTF for a very long time, constantly alternating through the maps keeps the game mode fresh, and with only 6 maps, that's saying a lot. Capture the Flag is home to so many butt-clenching moments for me. You know the ones, where it's a tied game and both teams currently are rushing to their bases in hopes of capping before the other team does, or maybe when you and your team are on your way to capture the intel one more time, but the enemy team set up 7 sentries in the intel room, so you and half your team makes the biggest push of the game as you all try your hardest to capture the fortified intelligence. Or maybe you're just a lone scout making it back to your base with a soldier, 2 pyros, and a medic chasing after you. Moments like that are why I sometimes get sort of competitive when it comes to Capture the Flag. Cause surprise, surprise, we all like to win, don't we?
Winning a CTF game in extreme cases like those is super enjoyable, and it feels amazingly rewarding. But those moments just flat out don't exist at all in a competitive 6v6 setting. Capture the Flag used to be played in Highlander, where it works slightly better due to the larger player count, but 6s is the easier spectator sport. I'm sure everyone's aware of it at this point, but Capture the Flag in its current casual mode state is an absolutely terrible contender for any sort of 6s gameplay. For starters, Valve servers not enforcing any kind of time limit for CTF matches is actually very detrimental to the game mode's quality. What you say about the lack of a timer making the mode feel like an actual war makes sense, but a particularly awful stalemate could leave a round going for hours and hours, leaving commentators and spectators to become bored very quickly. For instance, one team could focus really hard on defense without even pushing, and that leads to an endless battle. Similarly, the 5CP game mode also has the potential for really nasty stalemates, but Valve has a sort of solution for it. The mode enforces a time limit of 10 minutes after a capture in every match. Capture the Flag doesn't have this, but it is possible to enforce a total time limit through console commands. The lack of a time limit might be okay in a casual setting because players can come and go as they please, but it simply won't cut it in competitive 6v6. I think the idea for a good middle ground would come out of 5CP, as the game can start with a 10-minute time limit and 4 minutes can be added to the timer after every capture, with 10 minutes being the maximum on the clock. In addition to the timer issues, the game's current selection of CTF maps are not the best. 2 Fort is a classic, and it looks very appealing visually, but its narrow hallways and choke points make it almost impossible for a round to end sometimes. It's very common to see multiple engineers in 2 Fort's intel room in casual, but when the players are at a high skill level, it becomes very difficult to destroy their buildings and make an escape. In 6s though, there are no engineers, but the same effect can be achieved with multiple teammates going down into the intel room, instead of making a push. We all know that 2 Fort's intel room is really easy to hold down, but just imagine Sawmill's cramped clusterfuck. I don't even want to think about it.
Well said, Air. While we're on the topic of negatives, Capture the Flag doesn't walk away unscathed from me either. For example, why is it when a team captures an intel, they're awarded with temporary crits? Seriously, there could be a very capable soldier, demoman, or even scout already in the enemy base's intel room waiting for the intel to be capped just to be loaded with sweet crits, in which case it makes the usual difficult and challenging travel back to your base basically a cakewalk. Imagine playing King of the Hill, but only every time a team captures or recaptures a point, they're awarded with temporary crits. It just wouldn't be fun, and with CTF, it's no different. These temporary crits are the epitome of unnecessary, and the game would be just as fun without them. Though I will admit, getting those crits at just the right times has saved me from death more than a few times. Though, at the same time, they've also been the death of me more than a few times. And then we arguably have the biggest problem I have with Capture the Flag. No, it's not playing tilt recaps, no, it's not the potential stalemates, no, it's not even the lack of timer. It's that stupid intel timer. Basically, when someone is capturing the intel and they're killed before it makes it to their base, the intel is then dropped at the very place the enemy was killed, in which case the team then must go out of their way and defend that intel for a whole minute. Now 1 minute may not sound that long, but if you've played Capture the Flag, you'd know that 1 minute feels like an hour when you're defending it. And get this, if the enemy team touches that intel, even for a second, the timer resets. This unforgiving timer with no way to shorten it makes defending the intel outside of your team's turf very difficult. As soon as the briefcase is outside of your base, you might as well just hand it over. I've seen very few occasions where the team successfully defended the intel in these scenarios, and when they did, it's because they had a level 3 sentry at the site and most of the team was also there to defend it. Now this could be argued that this is a good thing as it gives the other team a chance to retrieve the intel, and it does, don't get me wrong. It would be a big pain to go all the way back to an enemy's intel room to grab it every time someone chokes and drops the intel, but that 1 minute timer gives the other team a too good of a chance to retrieve it. What I suggest is to shorten the timer relative to how close the intel is to the opposing team's base. I've created this visual as an example to show where the intel has been dropped versus how long the timer will be as soon as it's dropped. The closer the intel is to the opposing team's base, the shorter the timer. This would obviously vary from map to map, but I believe this makes retrieving the intel a bigger and more fair challenge for both teams.
I agree with your ideas about that intel timer, but personally, I think the 60-second timer should be counted as a total after the intel leaves the base. For instance, if someone picks up the intel and drops it, the team has 60 seconds to pick it back up before it goes back to the base. If someone picks it up after 5 seconds have passed, but then they die and drop it again, the timer will have 55 seconds instead. Also, that crits after capture mechanic is complete and utter garbage. On paper, I guess it makes sense, but the crits only really bring the winning team even closer to victory. If you want to award crits at all, they should be given to the losing team instead. But honestly, I think the mechanic should just be removed entirely. To understand these weird design decisions though, you need to remember that TF2 was originally intended to be a casual game. Capture the Flag as a game mode fits casual play okay, I guess, despite all of its flaws. In casual mode, you can enter a match at any point, and you can also exit a match at any point. If you happen to be strictly a casual player, the lack of a time limit in CTF shouldn't matter all that much. Of course, though, competitive play needs to be considered in every scenario. and the change I suggested to the intel timer would benefit both styles of play. As I said earlier, I also think the crits after capture mechanic should just be removed outright. It only makes it even more difficult for the losing team to catch up to the other team after their intel gets capped.
So to conclude, Capture the Flag is viewed by many to be a rather mediocre game mode, but quite frankly, I love Capture the Flag. Regardless of its major issues, the positives I've listed makes Capture the Flag my absolute favorite game mode in Team Fortress 2, and that's held true for quite a while as well. However, when it comes down to weighing the goods and bads, Capture the Flag needs some major reworkings to make it, in my opinion, a better game mode that can be enjoyable for a larger group of players.
I agree wholeheartedly. When I play Team Fortress 2, about 90% of that time is spent in casual mode. When I queue up, I have every Capture the Flag map in the pool selected because I know there's still a lot of fun to be had with it. Is this fun particularly a result of the game mode's design? Absolutely not. But casual TF2 is silly enough that almost anything is enjoyable with the right circumstances. However, I think anything is possible, and CTF could become a contender for 6s, given it gets a new map pool and a whole bunch of fixes.
Thank you, Air, for taking the time to drop in your 2 cents on Capture the Flag with me. Whether you guys agree or disagree with us, don't forget to check out Air's channel if you haven't already. He posts a lot of great content that I highly recommend you guys check out. Seriously, it's some good stuff. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you next time.